hello to you, my lovely listener. It's me, psychic medium Jason Paul, and you're in the place where your ego can most certainly take a back seat. I've been in the land of change, like I said in the last episode, kind of just taking a period to relax. It's actually dawned on me just how tired I've been since leaving my business, because to do 13 years in the industry I've done, I think I've definitely got a few stripes on my shoulders. So I've really been turning a lot of my attention to my mediumship, and I'm being blown away by just how much I'm learning, and I'm able to just sign up to things and do things that I would never even think I could do when I was working for my business, like joining a circle that starts at 10 a.m. Australia time and doing that at 1 a.m. UK time. But why not? So I must admit, the ego does keep chipping in, Soul Sync. It keeps chipping in, wanting to create fear, and I will not allow that, not on my bloody watch. So anyway, let me introduce you to today's guest, who is called Marcus McKeown. Now, he is the owner of a beautiful place called the Yellow Rock Sanctuary, which is in Amar in Ireland. We talk all about Marcus's journey on how he even came to find himself running a retreat. And I have to say, speaking to him, I want to go to the retreat myself because it sounds absolutely marvellous. Marcus and I discussed so many things in this conversation, from where I am at the crossroads in my life and how many people arrive at his doorstep, so to speak, to his retreat. They might be successful on the outside, they might have the money, they might have the looks, they might have everything, every box ticked, but they feel, qualifies them to look like a successful person in whatever spacesuit that looks like. But they arrive because there's a feeling of disalignment. And it really reminds me of my own journey. I had come from humble beginnings, grew this multi-million pound company, and one day I just thought, what the bloody hell is the point of all this? I'm goddamn miserable. My soul was yearning out. I was struggling on a path of battling addiction. I'd never even stopped to consider once I might want to do some healing along the way. God no, because next month the clock sets to 0 and here we go again. So, I think there's so much to be said for spaces like Marcus has created. And what we talked about, he put some really powerful concepts across, only in such a way that someone who's had a really trodden a well-trodden path even would be able to put them in. So I was sat here, as always, scribbling notes. One of the big questions I want to sit with from this episode is, what is awareness? We discussed about awareness. We discussed about the God force. We discussed about all that is available to us, is within us. So, we got a lot of value for money in. So this is my conversation with the lovely Marcus McKeown. Marcus, welcome to the Soul Sync.
Well, it's nice to be here with you.
Oh, it's lovely to have you on, my dear. Thank you for coming on. I know we're going to have a lovely chat because we were having a old natter before I even pushed the record button. So tell us about you and, first of all, the Yellow Rock Sanctuary in Ireland, because I've got the website open right now. It looks bloody lovely, if I do say so myself.
Yeah, it's a precious gift in life. Yellow Rock Sanctuary is a space where people come when they are kind of sick of seeking and they just want to find some peace and rest. And we hold a space that allows people to embrace silence, to enjoy the grounds, the woodlands, organic food. We do meditation. We do some teachings around non-duality, what it means to live in the present moment. And as opposed to teaching anything, we help people sit in a space where they let things fall away and see what it is that remains when everything else has drifted.
What does someone who's sick of seeking look like to you? What does that mean?
Oh, they're frustrated, they're burned out, they're tired, sometimes angry. Often you'll find people who are, well, it depends. You can have an extreme. A person might come here who has everything in their life, all of the boxes ticked, nice home, nice family, nice car, the bank account is okay, but something inside is just not fulfilled. and they can't enjoy the life that they have. And that creates a certain level of sabotage, discontent, or misalignment with the self, or the sense of what life is or the purpose of it. Or you might get someone who'll come along and they have sought so much, they have looked so often and so far that they're just broken. They're broken down, they're tired, they're exhausted, they are scared, they're living in fear of their own death because they haven't a sense of being someone who lived yet. And I guess everything in between. People who are, they've tried maybe mediums, they've tried Reiki, they've tried coaches and horses and Bali and yoga, and still there's a discontentment, there's an emptiness, there's a lack.
But even those people you're just describing, the people who are doing the Reiki, the yoga, whatever, I would like to assume that these people understand, what life is all about. They're awakened people, so to speak. They understand perhaps they are a soul. So what's making them feel this way, that they need to come to the sanctuary? I'll say quite frankly, the sanctuary looks like the sort of place where I'd quite like to go on a holiday, but that's not the purpose of it, is it, Marcus? That's not.
Well, actually it is. The sanctuary is here. There's a couple of things that happen here. Locals can come in a couple of times a week and join meditation, but essentially once a month we do a silent retreat. Every couple of months we put on a different kind of program, maybe a teaching program. But most of what happens here is that people book in for 3 or 4 days or a week or 2 weeks, and they come and they enjoy the silence. They get meditation every morning. There's yoga, reflexology, singing bowls, breathwork sessions, whatever you need to accompany you as you find rest and peace and escape the busyness and the noise of the mind. This is all about coming back into the present moment fully, emotionally, psychologically, physically, and then letting even that go and allowing the silence, and you recognize the oneness that there is between you and with you.
And do you know what? I think that to step away from the madness of the world, because even at the crossroads I was telling you about just before we started recording with my business, and it's been everything I've known now for 14 years, is recruitment. Your phone going off every 2 minutes with candidates, clients, you're sort of constantly looking at the money speedometer. Every month it resets to zero. You're in the land of the ego nonstop. And, I've kind of I'm detangling myself from that world, Marcus, and I'm suddenly finding myself feeling like I'm flowing. I'm enjoying it. But I do keep noticing the ego and the world and all this, dinging, binging, phones, whatever. It's, the ego even wants to keep coming in with unhelpful stuff at times during this transition. And it's very easy to see why sometimes you need to step into that environment just to step on the, the raw earth beneath your feet.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah,
do you even wear shoes, Marcus, or are you just barefoot all the time?
On occasion, in the sanctuary, no shoes. No, for sure not. No shoes. It's a simple thing, but like we have a woodland here. It's very common. You go out and people are walking around barefoot, and sometimes you just see them, they'll stop and they'll sense the earth and the energy of the life they're standing in. And even that makes a difference. It's a detox from the world and the noise of the world. Like you mentioned that you would expect the people who do some of the seeking, that they know that there is soul and they know how life works. Surprisingly, most don't. If you live in a world where the people around you are aware of that, it's kind of a normality. But most are not aware of what it is that they're dealing with in these things. They've got a training, they've got an understanding, they've gone to a school or a class or a course, so they know something, but they're still trying to become something else. They're still thinking, when I get those clients, I'll be happy. When I achieve that thing, I'll be happy. When I get to that place, I'll be happy. When that occurs, then I can rest. It's the old, when I retire, I'll enjoy life conundrum.
Yes, and do you know what? That's so sad as well, because you go through your life and you think, okay, when I retire, but you want to enjoy your whole life. And it's so easy to understand how we fall into those traps, because something that jumped out at me that you put on your form is you help people see what is true and what is not. How do you help them do that? Because it's so often, we can even have these beliefs and ideas about ourselves that certain things are true. And I've had to really look at my life and say, Is that reality? Is that belief even founded in fact? How do you help people work this out, what's true and what's not?
through the idea of a direct examination of the current moment, a direct experience. What is really happening? Like as the thoughts come and go, they can't be real if they're coming and going. That which is real never leaves. It remains. So what comes and goes is not real, but what comes and goes is often what captures somebody and holds them in what they think is the present moment, but they're actually being held in the present thought or the current thought, which is very often future or past based. So when we say we help people here, we simply ask the kind of questions, I suppose in a Socratic kind of way, we ask the kind of questions that allow people to reflect on what is the true experience of being here now, emotionally, psychologically, physically. What is that thought asking of me? Is it pulling me away from here? What does it mean to sit and to rest in silence, really? So it's to become aware of what is the true direct experience that you're having. And you'll discover that practically everything is a perceived reality, but it's not the only reality. So the question we ask is, what remains? When all of the thoughts, the perceptions disappear, the sensations disappear, the ideas disappear, the notions disappear, what is always there? What remains? And what remains is your true nature, without being disturbed by the mind or what you call the ego. And people sometimes resist the whole idea of even talking about ego, but ego is not against you. Ego simply does what ego does. It's the part of the thinking mind, the part of the self with the experience of life that wants certainty and it wants control. It's programmed to have certainty and control, but it doesn't know anything unless it is in control of itself seeking control. So the question we have here is, what is aware of the ego? What is the one that is aware of the moment? The moment is the experience, but what is aware of it? You are aware. You are awareness. Everything else is the perceived reality.
We'll be right back.
Hello, my darlings. I'm launching a brand new monthly newsletter. Think of it as SoulSync in your inbox once a month. Or we'll be like pen pals. I'll tell you what I'm up to in my mediumship, what I've been doing over the month. There'll be free meditation downloads, events. Sign up jasonpaulmedium.com down at the bottom of the homepage, and I'll see you there. Well, yeah, it's so interesting you even saying that, because you are awareness, but we identify that we are our thoughts, don't we? Because if I think how many unhelpful thoughts I have a day, it's, staggering at times. But our thoughts are just neural pathways of the past. We are just, a series of thought patterns, aren't we? And neurons.
Here's a question for you, Jason. As you ask me this, are you thinking that, or are those thoughts just appearing and you're sharing them?
Well, they're just appearing. They're just moving past.
You're not even. Yeah, there you go. You're not even thinking. Yet we get caught up in the idea that I'm thinking these thoughts. No, you're not. There's problem number one. You think you're thinking. You're not. You're realizing something that shows up, and what shows up tends to be what is within the bandwidth of your mind, your life experience, your programming. Like, you'll never have a thought show up that you have not been exposed to somewhere in some way. So
you don't. Because it's safety. If you started coming into your mind, okay, you in a rocket, oh my God, that's going to freak you the hell out. What is this thought? Why am I getting it? It's all just previous stuff. But that's why we struggle to move forward in our life, because we are just stuck in living in the present from the past, aren't we?
Well, if we really go to the heart and soul of what we help people understand here in Yellow Rock Sanctuary, there's not even a we. This is all perceived reality. This experience that we're having is the ideas that have been allowed to manifest themselves in some form through mind, which is object. We are all life, one life, not versions of life. We are all life showing up in different forms, one life expressing itself in every way. Life doesn't even know your name. You are life, getting to know the self. Life doesn't care that you're Jason. Life is just enjoying the fact that it's knowing itself in the form of Jason, in the way of Jason, and through the personality of Jason. And life is laughing as Jason takes it all very serious, because life knows that Jason isn't even. It's just itself knowing itself.
We start life from a very difficult perspective, don't we? Of being the very first thing we're given as soon as we're born is a name. Understandable, we need a name, but we are given an identity. So we start, and I don't know what happens up there in the spirit world. My belief is a soul decides it wants to come down because it has a number of learnings it wants to undertake. So it enters into a soul contract. And I think my soul was probably putting its hand up for every bloody experience, knowing my soul. But the point is we then come down here and we forget as soon as we're put into a body, we identify with that body, we identify with that name, we identify with those beliefs that we have about ourselves. And, there's so much to even detangle there. So the lens you're looking through reality at is got so many biases and, beliefs about oneself. How you're perceiving this conversation right now is probably very different from how I am.
We're having two different conversations.
We are having two different conversations. We're living in two different realities, but we are one being. We are one in the same.
Here's something that I really get a laugh and a kick and an enjoyment out of sharing with people, that right now in this moment, you're only experiencing yourself. You're not even experiencing me. You're experiencing yourself in the way that you perceive me. And it's the conversation you're having with yourself about what you're hearing from here that you're experiencing. You're not experiencing my word. You're experiencing your own conversation about my word. It is not possible to experience anything outside of it. Everything is an experience from within. Like even if I come over and I touch your shoulder, you won't experience me touching the shoulder. You'll experience yourself having the experience of being touched, but you won't experience me touching you. Just the touch itself.
Yes, and that is a very interesting concept and way of looking at it, because you are, even when you're talking, and it was making me think as you were saying that about my ADHD brain, I know that because I've got a very active imagination, and even when someone's talking, I have to concentrate quite hard to pay attention, but it is an internal experience. But then, when we start talking then about awareness, and awareness not being, within your body, yes, okay, you have an awareness of if someone touches you, physical touch and vibration, but awareness is so much more than the 5 physical senses.
Sure. And the experience that we're having, we could say, is that which is arising from awareness itself. It's a localized expression of awareness. But awareness doesn't know that. Awareness is the essence of all. Awareness is life itself. And it's getting to know itself through its own expression, its own activity, which is what we are, an expression and activity of. Life itself. We're at the splash from the river. So if you imagine that everything is one, which we believe, I guess, that everything is just one expressing itself in many ways, the old school language for that would be that the omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient force called God is oneness. In that case, even God doesn't know that God is God. Because for God to know that God is God, oneness would have to split itself into two-ness, to discuss itself, to know of itself. So to understand your true nature, one must fall so silent that there is no disturbance. The catch is that when you're so silent that there's no disturbance, you don't even know that you're there anymore. So you don't have an experience. This is where a lot of people get confused and they get lost looking for awakening, because they think awakening or enlightenment is an experience. In fact, it's an experienceless experience. It's the utter allowing of silence, so profound that nothing is known to you anymore except knowing itself, which is so silent you can't even discuss it.
Well, I don't think as you're saying that, the Jason cogs are turning, because I understand what you're saying there, because when you go into such a deep level, you lose a complete sense of the ego, and that disappears. And what you experience, yes, is the oneness of everything. But, I question to myself, have I ever got to that stage on a meditation?
It's not a stage you get to. It's who you are. The question is, have you allowed yourself to fully rest with self, or do you stay in the mind discussing the thing you're trying to get to, which can't be got to when it's been discussed, because it is there without the discussion?
We'll be right back.
Hello there, Soul Sink, it's me. I interrupt this episode for just a moment to ask if you find this podcast at all helpful, please leave a review on the platform where you listen to them. It helps other people to find it and it means the world to me. Now enjoy your episode. It's very funny. So in my sitting now, the biggest challenge in all of this is the mind, isn't it? It's the chatter of the mind and it's getting it to be quiet. So I've gone through different stages of my journey. When I would first sit and meditate, it was always something that I found challenging at the beginning, just the sitting still bit. But, what's tended to happen over time, as soon as I've stopped lighting me odd amount of candles and sitting in my special chair and thinking I need to sit upright in the lotus position and throw my third eye over my head and all of that, is the challenge is the mind. I can get to such a stillness, but it has taken me a lot of real dedication and work to just get to a place of allowing and being, because for so long I believed, because all of our journeys are different, I believe from the very get-go my meditation was I want to connect with the spirit world, and that was why I was sitting. So I've always sat with that intention. Then it took me a while to understand the difference between meditation and sitting sort of in one's power and raising the vibration enough to connect with the spirit world. Then one of the biggest barriers I've realized is trying, and trying is thinking, and thinking I need to push up my energy to connect with the spirit world. But now I'm attuning to the spirit world. Now I'm thinking right now about having to build the energy out. All this time I'm thinking. I'm not allowing,
Of course.
So,
and when you're trying, trying by default tries. It never achieves. So you're always stuck in the trying. And when the mind is focused on that energy system or that thought process, the mind remains in the loop with the promise that you'll get there. Of course, knowing that you never will, you're not meant to. Like even when you say that, you try to get the connection, the challenge a lot of people have learning what you do or learning how to connect. Let's put it in a more simple three-dimensional experience, like learning how to connect with a partner or with a child or with a job. They try to connect and they are therefore losing the knowing of the present moment, which is you are the connection. Like you don't try to connect as a medium. You are the connection that is. And when you allow it, the isness to be, then it is more clear. When you try to figure it out, or when you look, you told me earlier, when you look at the person you're reading for, there's maybe a little give in their face that will direct you away from the essence of the experience you're having in the moment, which kind of pollutes in a way the purity
it
of
does
the read.
pollute it, because straight away, and I didn't realize I did something like this, but having an ADHD brain, you do something that's called like masking. And there was this program on BBC Two where it talked about autism and how autistic people find it so draining to be kind of in social settings for too long, because they find it overwhelming because of the way that they kind of perceive the world. So what it said is they, will mirror what they feel they have to be. And with my ADHD brain, I learned this, as we all do, as we're children, we learn different experiences, but I was always told I wasn't paying attention. So I've learned over time that, I'm sort of hyper focused on am I, making sure that I'm paying attention to this person? Am I looking interested? Because sometimes my brain's just doing other things. So, that's kind of allowed me to be really good at reading people in terms of facial expressions. But, being a very caring person about my mediumship, it made me, every time I would see someone all sort of raise an eyebrow or something, I thought, oh, no, okay, I'm getting that wrong now, and it would take me totally off course. But, I'm a trier. That's the thing, Marcus, I'm a trier. Everything that I've achieved in life, I've now associated that trying gets you somewhere, and it does get you into a lot of places, but not half as much as allowing. But what you can't do is use allowing as an excuse. If you want to manifest something, you need systems, you need discipline, you need, you're not going to manifest your dream life if you're sitting on the sofa all day long. That's just common sense. But
yeah, well, that's what manifestation requires. But what if there's a simpler path? What if you, And what if it's simply the recognition that you don't need to manifest? There's a different word that might change the whole perspective, which is you render into existence. You render into your knowing. Manifestation is a lot of hard bloody work, no? It's a lot of effort.
Manifestation is, again, a manifestation is one of these things that annoys me the more and more I go into this, because I have a very long and extensive relationship with manifestation, spanning back many years to when I was very young, reading the book The Secret, and really then feeling that manifestation and the law of attraction is the answer to everything, but never fully believing in that, because I find it so difficult. I think, okay, the way I need to get the life I want is to be really grateful for it right now and imagine I've got it. And something about that just felt sticky. It felt like I'm trying to do something here. But, now my belief is to get that thing that I want. I think one of the most powerful things you could do is visualization, because you are putting that intention out of there, that vibration out there. And the subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between, imagination and reality. So, then you will get insight into that. But I think manifestation is one of these things that it's glamorized and it's attached to money now. It's now, about how to get material things. So it's lost the truest essence of what it's all about, I feel.
Yeah, which is to get the essence in the present moment of what it is to have the experience of that thing. Not the thing itself, but what it is to experience the self as if that thing is already in your life. So the true manifestation is to breathe into the essence of the beingness of who you believe you would be if that thing were a part of your life. It's to allow the energy that is there to show up, as opposed to be hidden behind all of the trying and the doing. This is simply about letting go. What we teach here and what we help people understand is that what do you need to let go of? So we use nice words like, what's the thought you need to soften? What's the heart you need to allow open? What's the thing you need to let fall away? It's not about doing. Like we teach here, there's nowhere to go, nothing to do and nothing to achieve. And if you listen, if you can imagine you're listening to this, but you are at home a listener, brokenhearted, feeling poor, feeling hopeless, tired, the body is aching, and you're just exhausted and tired. And then somebody comes along and says, well, when you do this, and you think, but I can't do that. I don't have the leap in energy. Leave me alone. When you think this, well, I can't think that way. My thoughts are tied up in this worry. It's almost like, well, then I'm sorry, there's nothing for you. What we say here is, well, that's great. Let all of that disappear. Let it all fade away. What remains? Like if I ask you right now, Jason, everything disappears, everything fades in your life. What's left?
Love.
Even that, what's left?
Just life itself, I guess.
Even that. Let that go. What remains?
Just consciousness.
Amen. There you are. Welcome home. and then sit with that. And then you just sit with that. And you allow the examination of that by the observation. Allow it to be. And then the movement of life happens from the knowing as opposed to the knowing of or the thinking about. And that's why it's a very thin line between the allowing and the idea of what you think allowing is.
You're very good at explaining things, and there's a certain wisdom. When someone's, really understands something, because it's the art of being able to explain it. And it really comes through the amount of people that you've helped over time, because you have such, sincerity. And I can tell this comes from life experience. Because you grew up in a working class family. How did you get to where you are now? Because it's, it doesn't, from what I understand of the beginning, it wasn't like this, Marcus, this world for you.
No, for sure not. For sure not. How did I get to where I am? Well, first of all, without being facetious, I realized in my life that I was always where I am. I just was experiencing it differently according to my bias. I had expectations that were given to me. I had pictures that were presented, and I was guided to understand that a happy life meant A, B, C, and D. So I headed off in that direction, never getting fulfilled, but achieving many things. And I suppose I am, if you look at the old traditional faiths and the ways of teaching and the great masters, the ascendant masters on how they teach, I went through death and rebirth. The death of my ego, sometimes the death of my money, the death of relationship, the death of faith. Like, I got to a point in my life where I sat in a pile of nothingness with everything that once made sense having dissolved. Nothing made sense anymore.
How did that,
And
what happens for
no,
that to happen?
many things. Like, in this moment, I was hurting with something that had happened 20 years before. I was hurting with something that happened the day before. And there's some things were disappointments, expectations that weren't reached, or the emptiness of a life when you reach what it is you expect and when you reach what it is you're trying to reach. And then all of a sudden, the momentary relief passes and you're back in but I'm not content. There's still something missing. And I'm an eternal optimist, which also didn't help because I didn't know when to quit and when to let the death happen. So I keep fighting. I was an emotional, psychological warrior. And I also thought that was a good thing. Like, I was brought up in a Catholic environment. So, heading for the cross and dying up there was an important part of life, but for all the wrong reasons. Like, I grew up in a faith that focused so much on the cross and very little on the resurrection, on the new life that came from it. So I discovered in my life that, well, that's not going to work either. And I worked for many years in my church and loved it. The happiest moments of my life, I would. And then I realized, no, even that doesn't work. I need to find out what this is. So I left it all behind. And then, I guess it's 8 or 10 years ago, I just fell into this moment of realizing I have to stop. I have achieved so much. I've garnished so much. I've met so many people. I had ticked all the boxes of my life dream and was just completely unfulfilled and feeling inside that if this is it, what's the point? What do I do now? There's nothing to excite me anymore. So I sat and I suppose I went through a very difficult period of 2 years of health issues. And I sat in a chair and I kind of stared at the wall and I swore at the heavens. And I said to my God at the time, my understanding of life, God, the universe, call it what you want. I swore and I said, I'm not effing moving from here till I understand what this is. I'm just not moving. I'm done. I'm finished. And the only reason I moved from that chair was to go to the bathroom, to see a client, to get the basic amount of money I needed to pay my way, to go back to the chair. And I sat there contemplating, and wondering and getting angry and crying and, drinking coffee. And that didn't work. So I'd smoke a joint and that didn't work. I'd smoke a cigarette. That didn't work. I'd scream at the wall. That didn't. And I just stayed there until finally the noise stopped. And I had that moment, just that moment that never was absent. That moment that was always there, but the noise, the trying got in the way. The expectations got in the way. The wanting to please people got in the way. Even people that had died, I was still trying to please them because the story in my head told me I had something to achieve, something to do. That would mean if I got it, I was a good man, good boy, or a good person, or a successful. And I just came to the realization, very gentle, very sweet, very soft, no excitement. I was in a moment and I recognized, wow, I've just been meditating. And this is beautiful. I feel I'm experiencing peace. It's just me and God right now. And then I heard the voice say, well, if you really want to know me, let me go to. And I presumed that to be the voiceless voice of God that was letting me know that even the idea of God prevents you from knowing oneness. Even the idea of oneness gets in the way of knowing oneness because it's a noise that disturbs the stillness that oneness is only known through, known as. And that was it. Then life
It sounded
continued.
like you had to get to a real climax point of just almost, it felt to me like nothing is fulfilling my soul here. And I resonate with that because even I as you were talking, it reminded me of when I was 2 years into my business, had more money than I could probably spend. I was so miserable. I was suffering from addiction. I was unhappy in every way because it felt like none of this matters and none of what, society says, and the way we view things as sort of on a whole as the population, none of this matters. And then I couldn't understand what the purpose of it all was, what the purpose of life is. And it feels to me that that was my soul crying out. Like, please, God, give me something nourishing,
Yeah, that's the death. That's the ego death. That's the moment that allows the question that gets your attention to arise. Like, automatically, with none of this makes sense. There's a quiet background question been asked, which is, Therefore, what does make sense? But we're not used to hearing that. So we stay with the question, stay with the statement, this makes no sense. This makes no sense. And we are getting caressed by the silence of the question, therefore, what does matter? But we're not able to hear it because we're so used to being in the noise and the statement of fact. You see, what do you do when you realize that nothing makes sense and nothing matters? What do you do with the question, therefore, what does make sense or what does matter? You don't know what to do with that. And we're not familiar with sitting in not knowing.
Even that question forces you to look so inward, doesn't it? That,
of course.
And some people just can't even, comprehend wanting to look, because that's like so much shadow work for a lot of people. It's such a exposing question, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. And the beauty of this whole idea of surrendering into the I don't know, when you get there and you recognize your true nature, you realize there's no shadow work needed. There's no mediumship needed. There's no Reiki needed. There's no banging of the drums needed. There's no Peru needed. There's no shaman needed. There's no getting lost needed. Nothing is needed. None of it is necessary to know your true nature. It's not essential. It might be necessary to the ego to help you know that, oh, I'm not alone. Am I alone? Please help me so I know I'm not alone. But it's not essential to knowing your true nature. All of these things are the games that we're playing ourselves as life expresses itself. We're just having fun, but we take it so serious we forget the fun piece.
Okay, someone listening to this right now, they want to discover, as soon as they finish listening to this episode, who I truly am. What should they do? Where should they start?
Well, don't wait until the episode finishes. Begin to ask yourself, what right now is aware of this experience? The one that is having the experience is not aware. The awareness itself is aware of the experience that has been known. What is aware? And the answer is, I don't know. Good. Stay with the I don't know. Don't try to answer it. Let just the essence of the moment, the essence of the question, what is aware, resonate. And stay with that until it makes sense. And every time the voice comes in and says, but, you say, shh, stillness now. What is aware? And every time the ego bites in, and you will fail. You can't fail, really. There's no such thing. But you will feel that you're failing because you get so pulled in. All that's doing is showing you that you have really and truly become embedded in a belief system that is requiring you to be at your best in the nothingness and doing nothing in order for that to dissolve. It's about effortlessness. Enlightenment is not an event. There's no experience. It's the most boring, pathetic, disappointing thing you could ever imagine because it's just life continuing as it is. The difference is you recognize the true nature. That's where the excitement might come from, but it's a still, quiet excitement. It makes no noise. That's why when the enlightened being falls silent, they don't jump up celebrate.
Yeah. And it's funny because, if someone had said to me 10 years ago, what is enlightenment? I would have thought it's almost like a bolt of lightning coming down, where suddenly you're transported to a land where I could zap you like I'm something out of a Matilda or move you. I've become of another state, Marcus, you see.
You and me, brother, me too. I remember at one stage I thought, but growing up as a Catholic, I thought it had something to do with the skies opening and a legion of armies coming down with trumpets and Jesus on a horse saying, come on home, kid, you've made it. All of that is just part of the game, the stories that are there to help us to focus in ways. But no, there is no movement. There is no movement. It is stillness. Your true nature is stillness itself, unknown by itself as knowing. You cannot know it. You are so still. There is no movement. There is no thought to let you know what you know. You are one with the knowing. In the same way, the fish has no idea it's in water.
Do you know something? When I was, to sort of throw a totally sideball in, my first ever job when I was 15, 16 years old was a magician, actually. I used to busk in Covent Garden. I was sort of like a slightly comedy type magician, to be frank. I used to do all sorts of crazy tricks. And when I was 14 years old, I used to do a lot of that as well. And I wanted to ask you, based on everything you know now, where you are right now in your life, do you believe in magic?
I believe in what's known as what I call the magicless. Yes.
The magicless magic.
Yeah.
What does that mean to you? What does that
The
feel
magic
like?
is to know that everything in the world is magic, but it has a way of being. It is the way of being. When you understand it, the idea of the traditional sense of magic disappears, but the glory of the grace and the wonder of it is magic in itself. Knowing that it's just the breath of life itself, which is all things, is expressing itself in so many ways. It's the ultimate magic. Do I believe in magic? I believe it is magic that there are billions of cells right now interacting, talking, communicating, so you and I can have this moment, this experience.
Well, even the fact we're here, how many ancestors have you had thousands of years back, that's led to, you getting here right now? We are magic, even the fact we're sitting here.
Yeah, with the magic itself expressing itself. The challenge or the difficulty with that word is that it can create an expectation of an event. And that's the ego wants that. The ego wants you to go chasing the magic, chasing the event, chasing the discovery of the mysterious and the unknown, because it keeps the ego busy. And that's beautiful. Why not? That's what life is for. Enjoy it. But just do it from the place of, or allow the beingness be the thing that allows you to go into that, as opposed to the seeking an answer. Once you seek, you're not going to find it.
See, that's the thing with the start of magic I did illusion. We would build up to that moment. We call that the crescendo in magic terms, Marcus. You see, we're striving for that moment where the effect takes full. I used to do things with fire and all sorts. I'm surprised I had insurance, to be quite honest with you.
It's no different to a 21-year-old in a bar who sees a girl he fancies and he goes over and he starts talking. He's building up to the crescendo and he's hoping he succeeds. It's the expectation, it's the desire, it's the want, it's the mystery, it's the unknown.
I believe we call that courting in old-fashioned terms.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, so I think these days it's more like a fishing rod, sort of reeling. I used to teach recruiters this in my day job. I used to say, when you get a candidate on the end of your fishing rod, right, you're doing well, but don't suddenly fling it back. Reel the candidate in, it's like anything. And no one wants to be chased either, it's not attractive. Don't chase anything. Just allow, I think there's something about that as well. Candidates,
if we're talking in the whole idea of understanding life and meaning and the purpose, and you come from a recruitment background and a sales training background, there's a beautiful idea in sales, which is once you ask the closing question, shut up. The next one who talks loses.
Oh, I teach that. Yes.
But that's the same principle as trying to find the meaning to life. Once you ask the closing question being, what is this? Shut up. Next one who talks loses. Be still and let the speaking arise. Let the knowing arise. Let life chase you. Like life is doing its thing through you. That's all. Like we're not doing anything here. The grounds in Yellow Rock Sanctuary are so beautiful. They're breathtaking. And many people come and they say to Pat, oh, you're doing amazing here. And Pat just laughs and says, I'm not doing anything. Life is doing all the growing. I'm just positioning the plant. Life is doing everything else. But people want to believe that it's us. They come in and they say, thank you for this. You guys are great. We say, we're not doing. We're just being.
I bet people don't like you on TripAdvisor, do they? They look at your reviews and you put that and they think they're not even trying there and they're getting good reviews. What are they doing at the Yellow Rock Sanctuary? They need to put you on 4 in a Bed or whatever it is on Channel 4 because you do very well. The only problem is that they're always stingy on that television show, though, with what they pay. I wouldn't want you there. It'd cheapen you, Marcus, cheapen you.
Unfortunately, I can't even comment on that. I think it must be 25 years since I've seen a television.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It doesn't look, from what I can see on the aerial photos here, that I see any antennas on the roof here with the lovely aerial shots. So, yeah.
You won't find a TV here.
Well, do you know what? It's been such a blast to have you on, and thank you. Do us the honour then on Soul Sync today of leaving us with a final thought. Close your own episode, Marcus. That's very lazy, but it's a tradition I've fallen into, you see.
Well, to leave you with a thought, seek within you the story that eliminates all the stories. A story so powerful that when it eliminates all the stories, it then eliminates itself and leaves you in peace.
Do you know what? Short, sweet, but I don't think you needed any more there. Beautiful. That's a thought to leave us with, isn't it? Marcus, thank you, my dear, for coming on to the Soul Sync. It's been a blast.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Honestly, wasn't that an absolutely fascinating conversation? Yeah, my pencil needed sharpening at the end of that, I tell you, because I was sitting here scribbling. I want to go to the Yellow Rock Sanctuary. I think a sanctuary at the moment, Soulsync, is exactly what I need. Because even in recruitment, your phone is always going off. Now, I have released on my website at jasonpaulmedium.com a number of appointments over the next 3 months because my diary's opened up to do a lot more mediumship. So if you feel called to have a tarot reading, a psychic reading, a mediumship reading, a blend of all, do check out the website now, jasonpaulmedium.com. It's lovely, my darlings, to be here with you. And Marcus left me in such a feeling of vibrancy there. I feel absolutely fantastic after talking to him, and I'm definitely going to be sitting down asking what is awareness, because what a fascinating concept.